What is going on, people? Tunji again from Ceasar Graphics. Welcome to my channel. If you're new, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and remember to ring that bell so you will be notified when I post my tutorials. Today I'm going to be teaching you guys how to make this poster that I got the inspiration from a coffee poster that I saw online. The caption on the poster says boost your physical performance, and I realized that the content on the poster did not really connect with the caption, so I decided to redesign this with a picture of this workout lady. I'm sure you're going to enjoy today's tutorial, and without any further ado, let's jump into today's video. Okay, so let's create a new document. So I'm going to click on file and I'll select new. So for this project, I'm going to be using the 1280 by 720 because it's possible I'm going to be uploading this on my YouTube channel. And I'm going to call this coffee smoke. All right. And I'm going to leave every other settings the way they are. And I'm going to select create. So the first thing I'm going to do is to bring in the picture of our character because we need to take out some information from her. So I'm going to create a new layer. I'll call this black. Okay, and this layer should be behind the layer of our character, and I'm going to choose black here, and I'll use Alt Backspace to apply the color to my black layer. Now I'm going to select the channels tab. So it's possible you're not going to see the channels tab on your Photoshop application. So if you don't, simply go to Windows and select channels here. So once you click on it, you'll see it next to your layer tab. Now what we're going to do here now is we need to take out the mid-tone from our character. So to do that, now these are the three colors that made the image. So from these three colors, we need to look for the mid-tone. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the red. So once I click on the red, you see the contrast on this is too much, so we don't need this. So for the green, now we have less contrast, but it's still not looking like what we want. So the blue is perfect. So I'm going to make a copy of the blue by dragging and dropping the new layer icon like so. And if I zoom in now, you see that we have this highlight, mid-tone and shadow on the image of our character. So what I'm going to do is we need to split this. So we're going to reduce the mid-tone and then make the shadow and the highlight more stronger. So to do that, I'm going to go to image adjustment and I'll select levels here on the blue copy layer that we just created, and I'm going to move the mid-tone close to the highlights. Now you see we're beginning to have less mid-tone on the image of our character, and I'm going to move the shadow in like so, increase the highlights. All right, let's just move the mid-tone a little bit, and I think this is good, and I'm going to select OK. So I'm going to hold on Control and click, and now you see we have the marquee on the highlight of our character. And I'm going to go to the layer tab now, and I'll create a new layer, and I'll call this character light. So I'm going to fill this with white. So I'm going to come here and choose white here, and I'll hit OK, and I'm going to hold on Alt and click to apply the white color to the layer. So I'm going to hit Ctrl D on my keyboard to deselect the marquee. So I'm going to hide this, and we need to move this to our project. So I'm going to drag this and drop here like so. Now the reason why we can't see this is because the color of our character is white and our background is white. So I'm going to create a new layer, and I'll call this black. Okay, so I'm going to hit D on my keyboard to change the color of my foreground to black, and I'll hold Alt and click to make this black color. So I'm going to drag this behind the layer of my character, and I'll right click on the layer of my character and convert this to a smart object, and I'll bring out the free transform, and we need to zoom in so we can see what we're doing. So I'm going to scale this down a little. So I'm going to make a copy of this. All right, so I'm going to call this one inner glow. Okay, so I'm going to make a copy of this, and this should be above the character light layer, and I'm going to reduce the fill of this. I'm going to go to effect button here and I'll select inner glow. Right. So I'm going to increase my inner glow just like so. Okay. And let's just increase the opacity a little bit and I'm going to select OK. So next is to go to filter, blur and select Gaussian blur. So I'm going to leave the setting the way it is. I'm going to leave it as 1.5. All right. And I'm going to select OK. And I'm going to merge visible of these two layers. So I'm going to hold on shift and select the black copy layer, and I'm going to select Ctrl E on my keyboard to merge visible of the layers, and I'm going to hide it. So next is the character light layer. So I'm going to make a copy of this again and I'm going to hide this, and I'm going to call this one oil. Okay, so this should be about this, and I'm going to merge visible of the two layers and hit Ctrl E, because if we don't merge the two layers together, we won't be able to use the oil paint filter on the layer. So I'm going to go to filter and I'm going to select stylize, select oil paint. So I'm going to make my stylization 1.9 and my cleanliness should be 0.5. Scale is going to be 0.8. Bristol is going to be 10.0. Now, if this is the first time you're using this filter, it's possible that your lightning is going to be checked. So I would advise you turn it off, because lightning is going to add texture to the project like the way I have it now on my screen. All right, so you need to turn it off. All right, and I'm going to select OK. So I'll make this visible and I'm going to change this to screen just like so, and I'll put the two layers in a group. So I'll call this character. Alright, and I'll reduce the opacity just a little. Now I need to make this black, so I'm going to hold Alt and click backspace to make a black color. So it's time for us to start adding our smoke. So I'm going to hold on Alt and click, and then I'm going to call this smoke. So I hold on Alt and click on the new layer icon to have this, and I'm going to hit OK. So let's select the brush tool. In the exercise file, there's a Photoshop brush set. So I'm going to teach you guys how to add the brush set to your Photoshop. So I'm going to click on this arrow facing down, and I'm going to click on the gear icon here, and I'm going to select import brushes. So this is the brush right here. So you can always locate the exercise file on your system and then click on the brush and click load. But because I already have it loaded in my Photoshop, there's no need for me doing it anymore. So I'm just going to hide this, and I'll start with this type of brush, which is the brush 764, and I'm going to reduce the size of my brush, and I'm just going to add the brush to my character. So I need to rotate the brush to face the angle that I want. So I'm going to add something here. So the reason why the brush is not visible is because my foreground color is set to black, so I need to switch it to white. So I'm going to click on this icon and I'm going to click. So I'm going to reduce the opacity just a little, and I'm going to increase the size of the brush, and I'm going to rotate it again, and I'll rotate it. I'm just going to add it so here, just like so. And I'll make a new layer, and I'm going to make this smaller, just like so, and I'm just going to do it this way. Rotate it, click. All right, make a new layer, and just gonna make this bigger. Click again, make it smaller, rotate it, and click here, and I'm gonna make a new layer again. This time I'm gonna rotate it again, and I'll make this bigger. And click, add the brush somewhere here. So I'll push this down. So it's time for us to start playing with the brush. But before I do that, I still need to add the brush to this side of the project. So I'm just going to rotate it again and just going to add it somewhere around here, just like so. So I'll put everything in a group. Now reduce the opacity just like so. All right. And I'm going to add a layer mask. Okay. So we need to give our layer a name. So I'm going to call it smoke. So I'm going to select the brush tool. Now make sure you're on the soft round brush and make sure you are on the layer mask of the layer. And I'm going to just take out some. So we need to switch this to black. So I'm just going to take this out. Like so. So I'm going to do the same thing here. The same thing here. Zoom in. Take this out from here like so. So I'm going to switch to white so as to add the brush to some parts of my character. Like so. Switch to black again. Just going to pick it out from here. You know what? I'm gonna go straight inside the group folder of the smoke and I'll create a new layer again and I'll call the smoke again. And I think I still need to add more smoke, right? So I'm gonna reduce the size of the brush to this. Just put something around here. So good. So just like take this out. Right. So I'm gonna put the two layers in a group and I'm gonna hold on shift and click and hit Ctrl G on my keyboard. Call the smoke plus character. So I had a layer mask and I'm going to take out some part of my character like so. Right. So I'm going to bring the picture of the coffee cup, drag and drop here like so. And you know what? We still need to scale this. So I'm going to make it bigger a little bit. Position it here like so. Position this here. And I'm going to create a new layer again. I'm going to call this smoke again. Select the brush tool and this time I'm still going to use the same brush again. I'm going to rotate this, rotate it. So I'm going to make this bigger and just click once like so. Alright. And I'm going to select the brush tool again. I'm going to make a new layer again and I'm going to use this type of brush. And I'm going to rotate this again and this comes somewhere around here, just like so. Okay, and I'm going to add a layer mask for this. Select the software brush and I'm going to increase the size of my brush. And I'm just going to take out the smoke from here. So let's see, this one needs to go up like so. Okay, yeah, this is good. So I'm gonna hide the coffee cup now. And so the next thing we're going to do now is to take this to Liquify and make the smoke effect look more real. So I'm going to make visible of all the layers by holding Ctrl Shift Alt and E on my keyboard. And I'll go to Filter. I'll select Liquify. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in and I'm going to increase the size of my brush. And I'm going to put this side down just like so. Beautiful. And I'm gonna make this side go in, because the size of my brush, I'll make it go in like so. Just to go in, and this side I need to push it in also. So I'm gonna take this in, and so I'll push this side out. So I'm gonna hit OK, and we have this. I'm gonna create a new layer, so I'm gonna hide every other layer like so, and I'm gonna create a new layer, and I'll call this brown dark. So I'm going to click here and change the color of my foreground to 6F2C09, and I'm going to click OK. So I'm going to switch from background to foreground again, and I'll click here and I'm going to change this to 431003. So I'm going to hit OK. So I'm going to apply the color of my foreground to the brown dark layer. So I'm going to use Alt Backspace to do that, and I'm going to make the layer of the smoke effect with the lady visible. So I'm going to call this character plus smoke. So I'm going to change my blend mode to screen. All right, so if I zoom out now, you see what we have. So we need to reduce the opacity a little bit like so. So I'm going to make a new layer again, and I'll call this light brown. Enter. So let's switch to like the light brown now. I'm going to select the brush tool, increase the size of my brush, and I'll click. Now I know some of you are like, okay, Caesar, why didn't you use the gradient tool to do this? So the reason why I don't use the gradient tool is because I always like to change the size of my glow independently. Let me show you what I'm saying. So if I bring out the free transformer now, you see I can always change my glow to any size that I want. So I can position this here, and now this is good. So I'm going to reduce the opacity of the character and the smoke a little, just like so. Now you see we're beginning to see some smoke effects that are not supposed to be where they are. So I'm going to add a layer mask, and I'm going to select the brush tool, reduce the size of my brush, and I'm just going to take out some of the smoke from the projects like so. Okay, so this is good. I can even take out some part of the smoke effect from here, so as to make it look more real. Okay, so we can switch to white and make this visible, black again, and just take it out like so. So I'm gonna look for the coffee cup, which is this. I'm gonna make it visible, and I'm gonna create a new layer again. I'm gonna create a new layer, and I'm gonna call the smoke. So I'm gonna select the brush tool. I'm gonna select this type of smoke. So I'm gonna rotate this and position this here like so, and I am going to click. Make sure this is set to white. All right, and I'm just going to click once, like so, and I'll make a copy of this. I'll bring out the free transform, right click and flip this horizontal and position this somewhere here and even rotate it like so. Okay, let's show this here. So I need to make this a little bit visible. It's too, yeah, so this is good. Okay, so this is it. So I'm gonna hide the layer mask. Let's hide this so it has to be able to see the adjustment we're making on the smoke layer. So I'm gonna select the brush tool and make sure you are on the soft round brush. So I'm just gonna take out some part of the smoke like so. Can even do the same thing here. You know what? We'll treat that later. So I'm gonna make this visible. So for this one, I'll bring out the free transform again, and I'm just going to position this here, right click and select warp. And I'm just going to push this here like so. Okay, it should be here like so. Okay, and I'm going to hit enter. So I'll add a layer mask again, and I'm just going to take out some part of the layer. So I'll put the two layer in a group, and I'll call this smoke again. And I'm just going to add a layer mask again and just randomly take out some parts of the brush or the smoke from the layer. So I'm just going to take this one out like so. So just do that. This one is to take out like so. Okay, do the same thing here. Okay, let's see. Okay, so this is good. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna select the pen tool and I'm just gonna draw a path so as to take out some of those smoke from the layer, and I'm gonna hit Ctrl Enter and I'll fill this with black, which is the color of my foreground. To take that out, let's see. So for this side, I'm just gonna select the brush tool, increase the size of my brush, and I'm just going to take out this because we don't need it. All right, so I'm taking out some part of the smoke from the layer like so. So I think this smoke here is not good, so we need to just dial that down a little so as to make it look more real. Okay, voila. And let's create a vignette. So I'm gonna go to the adjustment tab now, and I'm gonna select the curve adjustment. I'll push this down. So I'll hit Ctrl I on my keyboard to reverse the mask, and I'm going to select the brush tool, and I'm going to make sure I'm on the soft round brush, and I'm just gonna. So then I'll switch this to white, and I'm just gonna brush like so. Right, so the advantage of doing this is so as to create what I call focal points. All right, so as to make people's attention be on our character with the smoke effects. So remove this here. Actually, the ruler is not part of the plan, so I'm going to move this back in because it's not part of the plan. So I'm just going to move this back by the brush, and we have this. So I think this side of the project still needs some little tweaking. So I'm going to select the layer mask of the character and the smoke, and I'm going to increase the size of my brush, and I'm just going to take out some part of the layer just like so. And just go back, do the same thing to this one here. So I'm going to switch to black, and I'm just going to take out some part here. You know what? Let's just go back to the Liquify, and I think I still need to push this side down. Down. So okay, and I'm gonna create a new layer. Okay, so I'm gonna pick. Okay, let's see what this is gonna give us. So I'm gonna use this type of smoke. All right, so I'm gonna add a layer mask. I'm gonna select the brush tool, select the soft round brush, and I'm going to take out this part of smoke out of the project, like so. Just do the same thing here, like so. So I'm gonna reduce the opacity just a little, and I'm gonna select the brush tool again, choose this type of brush. And I'm gonna make a new layer, and this time I'm just gonna click again. Let's see if I hide this. I think this one is better, so I'm gonna add a layer mask again, and I'm just gonna take out this side of the brush, like so. To the brush tool. Call this brush again. Rotate this. So quick. Okay. So I'm gonna add a layer mask to this. I'm gonna blend this. Bring out the free transform. Just gonna scale this B like so. So I'm gonna select the brush tool again. I'm just gonna take out some parts of that brush from the layer. So I'm gonna add the last file to the project. So I'm gonna drag that and drop here, like so, and I'm gonna rotate this, make it bigger, and this should be above the layer of the glow. And I'm going to change this to soft lights. Then I'm going to reduce the opacity. All right, and zoom in. I'll go to filter, blur, and select Gaussian blur. And I'm going to make this go down a little bit. And yeah, so I think this is good, and I'm going to stop right here. I'm sure you enjoyed today's tutorial, and if you have not subscribed, remember to hit the subscribe button and remember to ring that bell so you will be notified when I post my tutorials. I'll see you guys again in the next one. Peace.